Hi, Julie Jones from SSP Performance, Smarter, Stronger, Better Mindset Training, here with this week's Mindset Made Simple Tip of the Week, brought to you by Game Day Sportswear. This week, we're talking about dealing with BS, disappointment, without losing ourselves. I can say this now because I can't get fined anymore for disputing bad calls after games. But the Akron Zips were victim of a bad call in the Baton Rouge NCAA Regional this past weekend. And as I write this tip, I wonder if I could follow my own advice in what science tells us to do in this situation. I was thoroughly impressed with the responses of the Akron staff. I'm not sure that I would have been able to remain in the dugout after the review of this seemingly straightforward call. It was a force out. Her foot was on the bag, just in case you're wondering. But watching all this unfold as the Zips took on Virginia Tech, bad call or not, I was reminded of some things that we all struggle with. Athletes, coaches, parents, and honestly, all of us as human beings. Bad moments, things that don't go the way we think they should, they change us if we let them. Akron came out on fire. The pitcher looked amazing. She was loose, confident, and in rhythm. She was complete. She was in her complete second game of the day, third of the weekend, yet she still looked composed and totally in control. She was smiling, relaxed, free. She had a great weekend. And then just like that, as happens on the field, in life, anywhere, momentum shifted. A hard hit, a controversial call, frustration, disappointment, and a little bit of a change in demeanor. We saw someone that looked a little bit different. We saw the same thing happen in game one of the day when the Zips were taking on South Alabama. Their pitcher was in full control, and then a solo shot to left, and things changed for her. The way she looked changed, and we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go. But this isn't criticism about either of these athletes whatsoever. Akron's pitcher was tremendous all weekend. She competed her heart out, just as her first opponent did that day. And honestly, everyone watching both games, depending on who they were rooting for, probably had a change in emotion and demeanor as well. I know I did. As soon as the call happened, I got my phone out and texted assistant coach Sarah Zillis immediately and told her what BS I thought it was, as if she's waiting for a text from me in the middle of the game. But the bottom line is that these reactions or responses, or whatever you want to call it in this case, are exactly why this conversation matters so much. Because this is what pressure and disappointment do to all of us. One moment changes the next moment if we allow it to. Research in neuroscience and sports psychology both show us that emotional reactions are not just mental. They're also physiological. Frustration changes our muscle tension. Attention shifts toward problems instead of the task. Breathing patterns change. Timing changes. Decision-making changes. Our visual focus narrows. Our bodies become less fluid and they become more protective. In other words, disappointment can literally pull us out of the state that helped us get to performing well in the first place. That matters because when athletes are rolling, it usually is not just about their mechanics or their talent. It's also about their mindset. It's about their emotional state, their attentional control, and their physical freedom. Loose muscles move differently than tight muscles. Calm eyes see differently than anxious eyes. Free minds process differently than frustrated minds. The challenge is that athletes wait often, and we all often wait, to feel better, or we wait for something else to change before we can change the way we act and get back to where we need to be. But elite performers learn the opposite. They understand that feelings and behaviors are not the same thing. And we do this all the time in life. We act differently than we feel. You might feel angry during a meeting, but you stay composed. You may feel frustrated in traffic, but you don't slam into the car next to you. You may feel overwhelmed at a funeral, which is very overwhelming, but you still laugh and smile, even though you're deeply saddened. Or as I like to say, my favorite example is sometimes you just feel like throat punching somebody, but you don't because you know that you can't, because it's frowned upon. You don't act how you feel most of the time. Human beings are constantly regulating behavior in situations that matter, constantly. High performers learn that we have to do the same thing in competition, and sometimes we forget that we have that control. That doesn't mean we're pretending that we're not upset, or it doesn't mean that we're acting emotionless, and it doesn't even mean that that call was okay. It means understanding that our response affects what happens next. It's our response ability. And one of the biggest myths in performance is the idea that we have to feel confident, we have to feel calm, we have to be positive to perform well. That is not true. Just not true. Sometimes great performers are frustrated. Sometimes they're nervous. Sometimes they're exhausted. Sometimes they're disappointed. Sometimes they are so ticked off that they can barely see straight for a few minutes. But they've trained themselves to continue displaying behaviors that support their performance anyway. That's emotional discipline. Our body often follows our feelings, but we want it to follow our behaviors. And it will follow our behaviors quickly if we know what we want to do. So research on posture, on breathing, on tensional control, on emotional regulation consistently shows that our behavior can influence our physiology. The way we focus our eyes, the way we communicate with teammates, even all of these things, right? They either calm or they activate our nervous system. This is why routines matter. It's why reset strategies matter. It's why our body language makes a difference and why we're constantly talking about our responsibility. Because difficult moments are guaranteed. Athletes who separate themselves, leaders who separate themselves, understand they're the ones who can avoid frustration without becoming it, or deal with frustration without becoming it. You're not going to avoid it. The goal is not perfection. The goal is shortening the gap between our emotional reaction and our productive response. Here are some questions that we need to be able to answer. Can we stay present a little, get back to present a little faster? Can we sort of let our shoulders relax a little faster? Can we communicate instead of withdrawing? Can we choose competitiveness even when our confidence wavers? These are skills. And like every skill in performance, they can be trained. If you answered yes to all of these, you're going to be amazing in tough situations. If you answered no to any of them, like I did, there's work to do, but all of us can learn skills to help us use our talent and our training to the best of our ability, even in tough circumstances, or no matter the circumstances. Everyone feels disappointment. Not everybody manages it well enough to keep performing through it. That's the difference. So choose one question this week and think about what your plan will be. What can you practice that will help you bounce back just a little bit quicker? What can you do to help you relax a little bit faster? How can you get back to present just a little bit quicker? How can you ensure that you communicate instead of withdraw? How can you display competitive behaviors even when you don't feel that way? Because there's a skill in each one of those. But it has to be something you can practice, because if you don't practice it, you're not going to do it under pressure. So everyone gets frustrated. The best can work through frustration without becoming frustrated. It goes back to sadness has come upon me, or frustration has come upon me. I am not sad. I am not frustrated. I am Julie, and I can still do my work. That's the bottom line. So before we wrap up for today, I would really like to send out a heartfelt congratulations to the Akron Zips on their historic season. What an awesome thing to watch. Congratulations to Craig Nicholson and his entire staff and all of the players. Congrats to the Virginia Tech Hokies for hanging in until the 7th inning when they're down 6-1 and finding a way to take advantage of opportunities and come back and win. Tough stuff is going to come. Our emotions are going to get hijacked. It's our job to have a plan for when that happens. If you'd like to talk about this or anything else related to peak performance, please send me an email at juliej@ssbperformance.com. And I'm looking for a couple teams to add to the SSB family for the 2026-27 season. If you're interested in working on your mental game all season long, we would love to have you as a part of our high-performing group. Reach out and let's have a conversation. And until next week, I hope you have a great week, but it's your choice. Great week or not, you get to choose.